Jahaji Pitri ki, Jahaji Pitri ki, Sarva Pitri ki. So we have completed our ritual ceremonies outside, and we have now moved inside to begin our cultural performances, as well as to have our panel. So I welcome you now to the inside space of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra and the Mandir, and I invite Geeta Vahiniji, the president of the Kendra, to begin with a mantra, as well as to offer welcoming remarks.
Namaskar, everyone. Alafia, Mabrika. I hope I'm saying all of these words. I've been trying to practice them so that I get it correct. I am here just for fulfilling the formalities of welcoming all of you to our Sri Ram Vijay Mandir, this newly renovated space of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra. I know many persons who came, they said, what has happened here? What transformation? And just as we transform, the space is transformed for, it's so much more beautiful, more organized and structured. It's a great instruction for all of us for our own lives and for our own communities. So may we all prosper, and may our ancestors give that blessing to us. I am sharing a very special mantra to welcome all of you. You know the word bandhu, it means friend. Every time we close our Hindu ceremonies, functions, events, we praise God as the eternal bandhu, the eternal friend. And we are very happy to welcome all of you here in a special sharing of friendship. And I'll honor the tradition of saying the sisterhood first, and the motherhood first, and the brotherhood and fatherhood. May we continue to learn and share and prosper in every beautiful way. So as you may wish to focus on your divinity, whatever the form, I offer this ancient mantra as I welcome you all on behalf of the executive and members of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra. Om Harihi Om Ye Bandhava Bandhava Va Ye Nyajanmani Bandhava Ye Triptim Akhilayantu Yastrasmasto Bhivachati Harihi Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. And I want to formally introduce our dear Vishalaji. She has been doing so much over these last few weeks, and there also with our mother into preparing for the drama, coordinating. She is the chair of the entire Pitri Paksh pioneering project here for us at the Hindu Prachaar Kendra this year. This is, of course, the last 6 events in all, and it's been a very youthful team who has been putting all of this together and working to ensure things are in place with limited old people supervision, the supervision of the elders. So Vishala Siudaji, she's very able, very qualified, from a very dedicated family. The lovely meals you will enjoy later has been prepared by her mother, and she's from right here in our community. You would have all passed by in front of her home on your way here along Raghunanan Road. So Vishalaji, you can take it from here, and thank you for all your efforts and hard work. Yeah, I thought we could have a drum roll for that. Why not?
Thank you, Geeta ji, and we have to thank, I can't call them the old people, but our seniors and our elders who have given us the opportunity to be part of such a great platform, the Ancestral Agenda, something that is very unique, and it's a pioneer and a landmark event for Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm sorry there are not more people here to be part of this, but for those of you who are here, I am happy and I welcome you all to this space where we are doing such a unique thing today. Like Geeta ji said, today is the 6th of 6 events, our final event, and she mentioned that today is the Sarva Pitri Amavasya, where we honor all our Pitris. And as part of each event, we have been honoring those who have sponsored and made the ancestral agenda possible, people who have contributed to our community and to the Hindu Prachaar Kendra specifically. So today, before we begin our program, we must offer Shraddhanjali, which is remembrance to today's sponsor. And I invite Geeta Ji, the president of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra, as well as Ravi Ji, the founder, to approach the Diya and the Kushgras as we honor Shri Udit Singh today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Jahaji Pitri ki, Sarva Pitri ki. So like I said, we remember our ancestors, our Pitris, and today we honor Shri Udit Singh. He was a very dedicated past president of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra, and yesterday would have been 28 years since his passing. He served his tenure with great humility, and he is always lovingly and fondly remembered by all those who knew him, and he is still missed. He indeed was a pillar in the early development of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra and the wider community as well. So we thank his daughter, Nalini, for her willing and kind support today for this final event of the Pitri Paksh Ancestral Agenda, and we pray Om Sadgati in cherished remembrance of Shri Udit Singh and all of his family members and ancestors. Atma Shanti. So now we come to the cultural part of our program today. And like Geeta Ji was saying, while we were observing our rituals outside, we would have seen all of these similarities that we share, our love and honor for Dharti Ma or for nature, our respect for the woman in society, and so many things we found similar in our rituals. And today, on this final day, Sarva Pitri Amavasya, we use this opportunity to not only, during Pitri Paksh, we remember our ancestors, but this day we remember all ancestors. We take this opportunity, and Raviji so rightfully has decided to include the people of all of the traditional religions of Trinidad to bring together the first people as well as the Orisha community who share such a great bond. And this project is actually a project of Ancestral, which is the associated traditional religions of Trinidad that Raviji and members of the Orisha community have come together and created. So today we have this wonderful program as part of Ancestral, and I know we have quite a bit in store today, so I don't want to speak for too long. So now I will invite, now each group we were asked to do a cultural performance. And the first peoples of the Santa Rosa community, they are not doing a cultural performance per se, but they have laid out here very nicely a craft display. So I just invite Chief Ricardo Bharat Hernandez to just introduce what they have, and then we will continue with the rest of cultural performances.
Thank you very much once again, Madam MC. In place of the cultural performance, as you heard, I was asked to just share with you what are some of the items we have on display. Here we have, and then we can see the similarities in all the cultures, because I'm sure it's not only the first peoples would have items such as this. But for us, this is called a warishi, and it is made out of the local tirit that we would know in Trinidad. Different groups and different indigenous groups would call it by different names. In Guyana, it is known as mukru. In Dominica, it is known as lauma, and so many different names. But it is used on the back to carry produce from the farm, from the garden, and it can also be used to carry the babies on the back. So it's a warishi. Next to it, we have a samari, which is a stone grater. And this is one of the original graters to grate the cassava. Not only cassava, other provisions, but basically cassava, where you process the cassava bread or the kali, and to make the farine and so on. So it is a piece of wood, and embedded in it is stone, right? So you could imagine the tedious process to get this samari, which is a stone grater. Well, now, while in the interior and Guyana and Suriname, and so they still use this, the more modern communities have advanced and they use more up-to-date equipment for processing and so. And similar, I know, in all the cultures today, you have the hako for the indigenous, and you would have this, what we know as the mortar and pestle, and I know the Orisha have it, I know the Hindus have it. So similar, again, all these early traditional groupings. Then we have the maraca. I know the Orishas use it. It is used, the larger ones is one of the main spiritual items of the indigenous peoples. It is specially, and in it, what is used in it is different items for different purposes. The smaller ones is more for music. You know, you would more play them for music in the parang and other music type events. And then we have a sample of a clay vessel, which again is common, showing you some of the vessels that are made from clay, which is still practiced. And we have different types of fans made from the different materials you will find in the forest. Fans for the face, fans, wari-wari, it's called a wari-wari, fans for the fire, for baking the cassava bread, and so on. All right? And we have some of the spears, the bow and arrows. This item is called a manare, and it is used for sifting the grated cassava. After it is dried, it is sifted through the manare to get it into, you know, flour type texture for baking. And then, of course, you have the hamaka. This hammock is made out of the ite palm, or what we call the morich palm in Trinidad. Very tedious exercise again. You have to cut, you have to strip, you have to boil or bleach, you have to roll it, and then you have to weave it, which takes days to complete. And last, we have a sambura. The sambura is the Carib drum. A sambura, the Carib drum. The Arawaks really don't use drums. They use more flutes and items like that, but the Caribs use the drums, which I know the Orishas also, and the Hindus use drums. So basically, this is it. You know, on the 14th of October every year, we observe First Peoples Heritage Day in Trinidad. One year we had a public holiday, but the other following years is just an observance. But we take the opportunity around the 14th to have a week of activities. And one of those days is solely dedicated again to ancestors, to show how important the ancestors are to us. And that week of activities, you will hear more about it as we get closer to the date. And some of the cultural activities, in terms of the dance and the music and so on, will be displayed. And I hope you will get an opportunity at some location to view and to enjoy. So with these few words, I thank you all so very much for your attention.
And we thank you, Chief Ricardo Parrott, for sharing with us these wonderful items of the First Peoples communities. And that is one of the reasons why we are here together today, to understand each other, to learn more about each other, and also to honor together and come together as one. So we now move on with our cultural presentations. So the next item is going to be the ancestral story that is going to be presented by a couple organizations coming together, the Ile Eku Shango Oshun Milosa, in collaboration with Ijo Umole Ilodumare, Ojubo Oshun Onibola, Shango Obakuso Mercy House, and American Heritage Foundation. I hope I did not say anything wrong, but okay, great. So I invite Yeye Aina Olukayode and the Isom performers, who will be accompanied by the Yoruba village drummers here, to present to us the ancestral story. So I now hand over to Yeye Aina.
Thank you. I think I might. No. Yeah, I get. No, I get that one. It's operational. Yeah. So sure. In the back. In green with the cap. Okay, if I put this down, I could speak without it. Okay. Greetings, everyone. All formalities observed, and especially in this sacred space. Right, so now I'm going to come out. Hold this for me so they will get the feed. That's what. Okay. Well, when I tell all you, it's Santana. All you hear me go over there? Right. I don't want them is not. Hey. Well, now they tell me, come all the way down here. It's festival. Ancestral festival. You see the three rabbits? Aye. The three rabbits here. And Iya Shango that's a one day with Ancestral. I'm telling you all, you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Right, very well. So, this fabric always reminds me of how we are woven together. We call on our ancestors from the east, the west, the north, the south, all the highest heaven and the deepest earth. Ancestors, we thank you, we welcome you.
Prachaar.
The blessing is mine to call on Iya Melvina Rodney, to call on Baba
Sam.
No. Papa Niza, Papa Niza, Ebenezer Elliott,
Prachaar.
Baba Sam Phil,
Prachaar.
to call on Ma Briza.
Prachaar.
Oh, you don't know who that is? It's Mother Cornhawks. Oh, you thought that wasn't a real person? Real woman. Do plenty good things to help many women. Ma Briza, Mother Cornhawks. Yes. Ma Diamond.
Prachaar.
I think the Baba from Ile Shuka. You know somebody named Diamond? Right, Ma Diamond is a good ancestor. Do plenty good work, many good children. Community woman. I am sure you can all think of your community, women and men, the mothers and the fathers. Well, long story short, we call the ancestors and think we're going to praise Yeshua. But wait, this girl. It have a girl supposed to be here working with me. Hey, trouble. You can't find she at all, but the thing must go on. Let's start with some issue, thank you.
Yeah, I go ilek babu keng, I go la roye bu keng. I go like babu keng, I go la roye bu keng. I go ilek babu keng, I go la roye bu keng.
You want them here, you
Okay, I'm gonna start over. I am Yeshu from the ancestors. I am the one who opened all the doors.
Up to now, she can't turn up yet. Hey! Look, she rich. Oshuni, so it's where you can come from?
Gosh, I was liming.
Oshuni. Oshuni.
Yes, priest. I was liming.
Oshuni.
Oh
Oshuni,
gosh.
how you will learn the thing, girl?
Oh gosh. Well, it have Facebook.
It have Facebook.
Well, oh gosh.
The word we shall not call.
Oh come.
Facebook, you say?
Yes.
Oshuni.
Yes, priest.
Which one you're going to offer first, Oshuni?
Well, I don't know. My father was a local Obia man. And I didn't have time with them thing. I wanted to lime. I was going out. I was on Facebook. I was on YouTube. And he gone now. And I don't know what to do.
Oshuni, ancestors will descend and make your rituals a success. Ancestors, listen, Oshuni, there's a...
Well, you know, I dreamed my aunt the other day, you know.
Uh-huh.
Cries, lie down crying. And I said, but this priest want me come and do this ritual. I don't know what to do. And I dream my ancestor. And I just feel like my ancestor there and my ancestor could guide me, boy.
Wait. You know what Udu I cast this morning?
What is that, Udu?
Oh my word. We will talk.
All right.
Oturupo Meji.
What is that about, boy?
Oturupo Meji. Listen to Oturupo Meji.
This prayer has been taken out of a Turupa Meiji. When eyes are two, they watch events unfold.
Louder.
When buttocks are two, they sit on a mat. One hand does not jingle, nor one foot walketh fast treading. How can we refuse a call from responsible people? I was asked to kneel and greet those before me. I knelt and greeted those before me. I was asked to kneel and greet those behind me. I knelt and greeted those behind me. They say, who are one in front of one? I say it is the ancestors in one paternal household that stands in front of me. They say, who are behind one? It is the Orisha in one paternal household is behind me. When Alapandede, the Ethiopian bull, builds his net, it's suspended in the sky, not touching the heaven, not touching the earth. Looking at Olodumare in heaven, looking at human beings on earth. Divine Faunishola, the child of Aramas, whose father died when he was a little boy.
You hear it?
I hear.
You're hearing?
Yes.
The priest and priestess asked him to officiate it, and he said he did not know.
Same thing, I don't know.
He never been to Ilife to witness any festivals. They say let him do it as he redeemed. And he burst into tears saying,
Pitri girl, I will guide you.
My ancestor will guide me, but I ain't seeing you, but I feeling you. I hearing you.
So,
Well, I don't know what to offer first, you know. All the rituals here. What is this? What is this black thing here? What is that? Oh,
this is water. What do you
right.
think water is for?
Water is life, they say.
She.
So what? Use the water?
Sprinkle it, Pitri girl, sprinkle it.
You choose. You have molasses. They say do it as you see fit. There's molasses. There's palm oil. There's honey.
Eeny, meeny, miny, no.
You think it's a joke, eh?
All right. Palm oil.
Yes, when things are hot. When things are hot, enters palm oil your mother just put in the pot to make things simmer.
Yes, and the smoothing stuff too.
And when they want you to be strong and sweet, you choose.
Choose the molasses. Let's make nice tolum too. All right. The honey, hold that to make me sweet. You know, when I come here, I was real sad, priest. But I'm feeling more confident. I'm feeling more supported because it's like if it's in my blood, like it's in my mind, it's in my DNA. I feel like I know what I'm doing. Okay, where's this eating here?
This is orogbo. Orogbo is a fruit that bears only after 70 years that plant is on the face of the earth. It is given for longevity, long life, good health. So you see, all these things is your tradition. These are the things that will protect you, guide you, guard you, keep you. Not Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram.
Yes, priest. But priest, I'm feeling a little better now. And I feel
Picnic girl, you will be all right. You will be all right.
like my ancestors always there. They always supporting me. They always around me. And anything I do, I feel I will always call the ancestors. And today, I could stand confidently now with a bold assurance and say, I, Anna Marie Baker, daughter of Bertram Baker, I call on my ancestors that stand on my left, which is my mother lineage. My ancestors that stand on my right, which is my father lineage. The ancestors of this land, the Amerindians that would have passed, Paneza, Melvina Rodney, Dr. Eric Williams. And I hear a voice. And this ancestor, I don't know where they are, but I feel like they're always around me. So all ancestors whose names I do not know, but whose blood runs through my veins, blood of my blood and bone of my bone, I salute you. Ancestors, always descend and make whatever ritual I am trying to do a success. Thank you.
Well done, Oshuni.
Yes, priest.
Well done.
Thank you.
We will divine and make sure everything is in order. But I'm feeling it in my bones, girl. You're good to go.
I'm good to go. Once the ancestors there, I'm good to go.
Lovely. So come pick up your thing. Don't leave your thing in the paper place. Nice, nice, nice. Have other people nicely. Well done. Now, you do the general thing, yeah? So when you know you appreciate your drummers and thing and all of that.
No, I didn't know that. And I don't know so what to do now.
Very well. Well, we'll come back and we'll do it, we'll organize that, right?
So we're going to sing and
I
dance
did,
and thing
when
now?
you were not here, I did that.
Oh.
We did that. It had a whole session outside, you miss it. But anyway, well done.
When my data done, so I can't go on my phone again.
I will lose that phone for you.
Right, so what do you
Eshu is pleased, the ancestors are pleased. Drummers, just a little thing, little thing.
So you could dance with the ancestors?
Hey, you could dance with your ancestors for true. Eshu, any answer? Okay. Well, you know, people don't understand your emotion connected to ancestors too, you know. So we started with issue, and we come to this part of our performance, and we salute issue at the end of our performance and bless the continued presentations.
Owner of the road, father of technology, owner of the house of money, provide for us, Baba. Father of all creativity, give us the strength, the focus to work hard, to turn our dreams into reality, to fight to defend our traditions, our culture, our freedoms, our great legacy. Open the road for us, Baba. Open the road for us, Baba. Ogo, open the road to success for us, Baba. The road to find our spiritual self. Where the road is hungry or thirsty for our blood, let us not walk. Ogo, Ogo, Ogo. And what of my own story of finding self? Sleep fled from me, giving me no escape from the fear gnawing at my very inside. The voices in my head said, "Flee from this place. Can't you feel the devil hovering, salivating in anticipation of seizing your soul? Flee from this place. Eternal damnation awaits you." I stood on the fleshly, leaped floor, transfixed, wanting indeed to flee. This was not the intellectual talk of spouting the black power rhetoric into open hearts and minds. No, this was initiation. This was initiation into an eternity in hell. This is to know the terror of the damned. Alone, the door shut tight. Alone with only those dreaded symbols from a deep, dark, and distant past from which enslavement had saved me. Waiting the dawn too, in the house beyond, the Aloysia Melvina Rodney prays. She, anointed of the great Papa Niza, asked for guidance. that the work of our hands be clean, be good, acceptable to the gods of our ancestors. The voices in my head question, who is this Shango with his double-headed axe? This Ogun with twin cutlasses upraised, this Oromela, this Eshu, those female jabeletses, Oshun, Yemunja, Oya. Didn't the whip beat them out of you, girl? Pray for the dawn, for no sleep will come to you. Flee from this place. Save your immortal soul. Flee from this place. The story of those of us who experience the ultimate sin of conversion, of Christianization. But it was too hard to beat it out. Uprooted, clad in shame, in rags I came, nothing in my hands. Stripped it seemed of all humanity, except the wisdom of centuries concealed in my genes, except the skills, the knowledge in my heart, my hands, the breeze playing about my face, the rivers gurgling, the deep seas churning, carrying the ancient songs, the stories. They close the door of no return. So they say, but through those gates I had already come, bringing my essences that none can take away, my secret me. Who can shut me out of who I am? They close the door of no return. So they say. So they say.
So let's have a show of appreciation for the presentations. And we also thank our members of the Ile-Ushokan tribe, and we thank Iya Entu Pearl Springer for her lovely and very powerful poetry, and for the presentations done by the dancer and the Yoruba drummers. And Iya Entu is no stranger to the Kendra. Of course, she is a very special sister of Raviji as well as Iya Shango. So we thank them so much for the cultural presentations made today, and we're so appreciative of it. I feel very honored to have such a presentation in a space like this. It was really, really powerful. So I thank all of the performers. And now, to close off the cultural presentations, we will have the mantra of the year sung by the Hindu community. And I invite the president of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra, Geeta Vahini, as well as Srimati Siromani Maharaj Narayan Singh, to sing one of Raviji's original compositions, and they may introduce it. So I hand over now to Geeta ji and Siromani ji.
So this is a composition. We like to call it "This Land is My Altar." It was written in the year 1991 by Raviji in a special project we had called Mantras of the Years, where songs and compositions were created to give us inspiration and guidance for that particular year. And it was always rooted and founded in a verse from one of our sacred texts. Now, we chose to do this as our cultural item after all this vibrancy and energy we just had. This is a little softer. Sing Mission. You're hearing Mission so many times these days, Mother. We are on a different mission right now. But Ciro, you have to sing a verse of Mission for her after, at least a chorus and one verse of Mission on special request. But yesterday, it was our nation's Republic Day. And it's a time when we reflect and we celebrate on nationhood, on our own selves as citizens and our roles and responsibilities to this, our motherland. So the mantra, the invocation says, "This land, it is my altar, it is my place of worship." And it describes actually the Vedi, the Hindu ritual sacred space. But the mantra reminds us that while here is the center, we expand ourselves to the boundless creation. And there's an instruction, Krinvantu Vishwam Adyam, make the world a noble world. So we offer this on our nation's Republic Day and on this most blessed day of Sarva Pitri Amavasya. Iyam Vedi Paro Antaha Prithivya Ayam Yajno Bhuvanasya Nabhi Ayam Yajno Bhuvanasya Nabhi Krinvantu Vishwamaryam 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 Krinvantu Vishwamaryam. This land is my altar, I am the salt, I pledge myself and soul, my head and heart and hand, for this my beloved land. This land is my altar, I am the salt, I pledge myself and soul, my head and heart and hand, for this my beloved land. Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, Krinvantu Vishwamaryam. Every little action is a Hindu offering, like the ancient rishis. Every little action is a Hindu offering, like the ancient rishis. Brave and bold as Ram, wise and strong as Sham. Brave and bold as Ram, wise and strong as Sham. Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, Krinvantu Vishwamaryam. Invoke this ancient mantram to stir the Hindu heart. Invoke this ancient mantram to stir the Hindu heart. Bless us as we march on. The mission must now start. The mission must now start. And I must play my part. And I must play my part. The mission must now start. And I must play my part. And I must play my part. Krinvantu Vishwamaryam, 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 Krinvantu Vishwamaryam. Trinidad or Tobago, Desh ki Jai. So, Jai Jahaji, Sarva Pitri ki Jai. And because Mother has requested this, the mission must now start. We'll have Siromani ji on special request sing one verse and the chorus of this special composition, a favorite of many, Mission to the Caribbean. It tells of our history as Indians coming to this region. So, Siru.
This was written as a pichikari. It was written by Raviji, and it was written as a priyarana geet, an inspirational song which requires no music. It's supposed to stir the heart. The Mother of the Universe is speaking to her children in Bharat, and she's sending them on a mission. They are being sent to the Caribbean. So she is saying to her children, Ja beta, ja, go. Mother says, Jao, ja beta, Jao, Jao, go, sending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Bait sending you on a mission to the Caribbean. There is a mystery behind Indentia history. Ha Sahib, take we from the ancient country. Beyond Kalapani, only half the story. But a secret voice was singing that they need you, so ascending you. Jah, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Jah beta, Jah.
So thank you to Geeta ji and Siromani ji for that wonderful presentation. And that now brings us to the end of the cultural performances for this afternoon. So we have had our ritual worship and honoring and remembering of the ancestors. We have shared our cultures and song and dance and drumming and poetry in our different traditions to honor and remember the ancestors. And to close off today's program, Raviji has thought it very necessary that we have some type of speaking. We talk about our different cultures, and each speaker will have something different that they will be presenting on. So we will now have a panel discussion, because not only do we perform rituals, and not only do we sing and dance and praise and remember the ancestors in these ways, but we must also have some type of intellectual conversation as our country moves forward and as we come together, because something like this is not something common in Trinidad and Tobago, to have the Hindu First People and Orishas traditions come together in one space. So to honor a moment like this, to have some bit of discussion, so I will now invite the panel members to come on stage. I invite Chief Ricardo Bharat Hernandez on behalf of the First People community of Santa Rosa. I invite Chief Ogun Rinola or Baba Lester Oshuna on behalf of the Orisha community, as well as Iamode and Ialode Ia Shango Dasawande and Ye Aina Olukayode on behalf of the Orishas as well, and Sri Raviji to now come to the panel to begin the panel discussion. And the format that this will take is that each speaker will have the chance to speak on a topic of their choice surrounding the themes of ancestors and remembering for 10 minutes each. So we bid farewell and thank you to Ia and to Springer, who has commitments to a drama that she is putting on at Napa this week. So we thank her for her presence and wish her safe journeys. And as we begin the panel, like I said, we will have a 10-minute presentation by each speaker, following which we will have about 15 to 20 minutes for anyone who has any questions or for an open discussion, after which we will end today's program. I know it's quite a lot, but each part of it has definitely been very, very interesting and captivating and monumental, I think. So I will first invite Chief Ricardo Bharat Hernandez to present on behalf of the First Peoples community. So
thank you so very much once again. Okay, so I will talk, since today is specially dedicated to the ancestors. Of course, my talk will reflect a little bit more on the ancestors to give you a better understanding of the tradition of First Peoples and how they revere the ancestors. Traditionally, our indigenous peoples saw and understood their world in a very different way. North did not represent the top of the world as we know it today. Where the sun rises was regarded as the top of the world. West, where the sun sets, was the bottom. Their world was characterized by duality: light, dark, male, female, secular power, shamanic power, spirit world, and this world. Similarly to the past, our indigenous peoples today live in close communion with the environment, in which all things are connected and interdependent. Ancestral spirits were benevolent deities and therefore were held in high regard. As you are all aware, most of the culture of the First Peoples, or we refer to them as indigenous peoples, was destroyed as a result of colonization. The first two aspects of the indigenous culture that were attacked were first the language and then the spirituality. In terms of the spirituality, most of the indigenous peoples in this part accepted Catholic conversion, basically for their own survival. Those that did not accept Christianity ran away from the encomiendas and the missions that were established for them. Whatever survived of the indigenous spirituality was covered up in the Catholic tradition and was practiced as a hidden form of worship. While the Catholic Christianity did not accept the traditional spirituality of the indigenous peoples and discouraged its practice, the very Catholic Christian religion had similar practices. This enabled the indigenous peoples to practice their version of spirituality alongside Catholic Christian spirituality. For example, some of the Catholic Christian fathers today would say to us that they would have nothing to do with us, with the indigenous peoples and their spirituality, because we do ancestor worship. So the question arises, what do they do on the 1st and 2nd of November when they go to the cemetery? Place flowers, light lights, offer prayers. What then is that, I ask? What do they do when they have requiem masses for the dead? What do they do when they have feast days of saints? Are they not ancestors? Did they not live here at one time on the earth? Then they have something they call purgatory. What is purgatory? We are told that that is a place where souls linger for a while because they are not fit for the higher space. And they pray for them until they are so purified to enter that space. Are they not praying for ancestors? You know, there are so many diverse nations of the indigenous peoples throughout the world. Each of them would have different traditional practices to remember their ancestors. But there is a general belief of all indigenous peoples in that they believe in the spirits of nature. The spirit of the mountain, the spirit of the forest, the spirit of the water, the spirit of the fire, the spirit of the wind, both good and bad. You have to be able to discriminate between the good and the bad and choose the path that you wish to follow. The shamans or the piais or the piaches, all these are different names for the priests, are the keepers of this spiritual knowledge. We are not fortunate like some of the other denominations to have various texts that were written from which we can draw upon. The indigenous spirituality of our people was written on stones, petroglyphs, totem poles, and through the oral tradition as passed on by the elders to spiritually selected individuals. At this point, I would like to give just some basic information on the general beliefs of death and the ancestors. One of the indigenous nations believe in what you call the ghost dance. This is practiced by one of the indigenous tribes in North America. It is an annual ceremony that is usually held in the fall when the leaves have fallen from the trees. It is conducted at the full moon for 4 nights from sunset to sunrise. It is a community celebration of the ancestors. 4 nights of dancing and fasting occur. Special offerings of cloth, tobacco, and traditional foods are given to the ancestors to thank them for their prayers for the people in this world and to show them that they are remembered and that the people still do their best to honor them and live a sacred way of life as they did. Many people attend this ceremony to re-establish the connection with their ancestors and to renew their responsibilities to honor their ancestors through ceremonial practice. By doing so, dancers earn the assistance of those ancestors, which is especially needed in times of sickness, accidents, or death. The ghost dance is a ceremonial gathering. teachings are given by the elders and the spiritual leaders with each evening that passes. They admonish the dancers to always remember the ancestral lineage and to understand that we are the sum total of all that our ancestors represented. Prophecies, markings on land, petroforms, rock carvings, rock paintings, star formations are all spoken of with the deepest respect because the ancestors have left them so the people can be proud of their identity and understand these for the future. Many dancers have visions of the ancestors and their loved ones at this ceremony. The departed loved ones come to the lodge to receive their gifts, food offerings, and love of the people gathered. This lodge is a powerful tool in assisting those who are still grieving. Many spirits visit the lodge to provide answers to hearts still filled with pain or loneliness. And this is just one example. For the many different tribes, there are similar ceremonies to the ancestors. I would just like, before I end, to bring one other point that Christianity has brought about on indigenous peoples that stifles the spirituality of our people. And that is, we believe in the ancestors coming to us in dreams and visions. Many of our people have experiences of dreaming with their loved ones who would bring some sort of warning to them of some problem that is about to occur, or bringing some healing to them in the form of medicines, or giving them guidance in some way, some form or fashion. We believe this. I can attest to having been healed of a sickness through an ancestor in a dream. But when you tell the priests of the Catholic Church or any other Christian, now I am not putting down any religion. I am not condemning. I don't have that authority. I am just showing how some of these organizations stifle the spirituality of our people. When you tell them of the dreams that you have had with an ancestor, they are quick to tell you, oh no, hold up. Don't believe in that. Dreams are not of God. They are of Satan or they are of some other spirits. But the very Bible that they uphold and they teach from is filled with so many dreams. Joseph was warned in a dream by an angel to take the child, Jesus, and his mother in a different route to get away from Herod. And there are so many other examples of dreams in the Bible. How come could they condemn when I tell them that I have a dream? That is a contradiction. So it is a clear state of stifling the spirituality of our peoples. And I think the time has come when an awakening is taking place. And sooner or later, our spirituality that was deprived, that was taken away, was rooted out from us, will once again blossom. And at this point, I thank the Kendra, Raviji, and the associates for putting on such a program where we can rekindle and rebuild this very powerful tradition of our peoples. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Chief, for those very important words. So we'll move on to our next speaker. So, Iya Shango Dasawande, you can go next.
Thank you again. The season is a tide and a time in the affairs of man. There are cycles and cycles and cycles into cycles and renewable cycles. At this time, I want to give praise and thanks and acknowledge the ancestors of all those who are in this space at this time for this auspicious occasion. I also like to give the message. While we were sitting there, Kabiyesi Shango came and he said that the ancestors outside asked that we greet them. We followed the protocol, and as we came here and we give praise and thanks to Community Kendra for this program, we asked the energies here if we could have brought our divinities, the divinity of our ancestors, and they said yes. They said we had to put them up, and they said that it would have been good for the night. And during the night it rained, and they said the heavens opened, and it poured, and it blessed us. So it has blessed this occasion. They ask as we leave and as we give thanks, and we do the correct things by thanking the energies here for the welcome that you've received, that we all pay respect to the divinity Awedo, the masquerade that represents the divinities outside. Now that I've brought that message, these times are changing. Times are changing. And we have to move with the tide. The earth moves in an anti-clockwise manner. And the planets that surround us, the 9 planets that surround us, only Venus, who we ascribe to Oshun, moves in a clockwise manner. So we have to be aware of the dynamics of our situations, and we have to be focused and know where we're going if we want to climb the steps of those first 16 Odu, that pot of energy that take us to our highest self. At the seat of this tradition is our ancestors. If it wasn't for our ancestors, the returning ones, we could not be here today. If it wasn't for our ancestors, we cannot understand progress. In the 14th century, all sorts of colonial expansions has been happening. In the 14th century, people talk about our traditions, which was beaten out of us and which some of us gave up for upward mobility because we thought that that was the way to go. But because of those same ancestors, we have learned. They have paid the price. They have come and give us the confidence to create, the confidence to go on. When, as a traditional person, speak about ancestors, all of us, once someone is dead, we say that is our ancestors. My understanding, when someone is dead, that is maybe your lineage. An ancestor has to do with character, work that has been done, how it's registered, how it resonates with us, how it stays with us. So much so that in our tradition, you don't have ancestors before the age of 40 because you feel that your character has not matured sufficiently for that ancestors. But we have good spirits. We have lineages. We have babies who come and go back. Well, no one is really a baby. Take the form of that they must come here with and go back. They've come to enter something new into the space that someone else is coming to. They come like an entourage. And some of them come for a day, a minute, and they go back. And they are not yet ancestors. We have lineages. Another thing that I want to say is that I've heard in our tradition, and I'm only talking about us at this time because I want us to make the best use of spirit and the better use of ancestors. There are good spirits. There are spirits who are not yet ancestors because they have not evolved to that part. There are enlightened spirits. There are unenlightened spirits. And what I understand is when we call on our enlightened spirits. When we pray for all our lineage. Because the difference is, if we don't pray for them, and by our lives that we live here, raise them up so they can evolve and we can evolve. All the bad karma that they brought back here at this time, if it's not treated at Ikosodai and treated throughout their life, will reoccur in our family. And I've heard some of us say, they're looking if we have any Bajon ancestor because they want to call them back, because they want them to do a work for them or they want them to do something for them. And I do not understand it that way, because if we call them back, we perpetuated a situation for the same 7 generations, for the same 3 generations, for the same 4 generations that we are talking about. So we want to understand our ancestors and how they evolve, how we evolve through them by what we do, by how we honor them, and so the things. In the 18th century, if you had to do an amputation, they would put hot ice, sawdust, a box, and they will saw your knees off. Because of your ancestors who came and went back and has refreshed us and has lived through the situation. Now today we do eye surgery with lasers, and things are going to come better and more efficient, because this is the learning ground. This is the school. This is the marketplace. This is the magic spot where we learn everything. We come to earth to sharpen our tools, sharpen our characters, and go back so we can make space and the universe a better place. So my thing today is to make the distinction between lineage and ancestors. We can have ancestors that are blood related. We can have ancestors that are not blood related, what we call pumpkin vine ancestors. And as I was doing in the Ukusadai, when I talk about people like Marcus Garvey, Touré, and those people. However, for us to get the best of the situation, we have to understand and align ourselves with the ancestors that we need to carry them and they need to carry us, because we say we sit on their shoulders. Let us pray for our lineage so that it does not keep reoccurring. Let us see what is happening now in our situation, what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, what is happening in the world at this point. Really need the ancestors. The kind of ebo that we need to address the situation is ebo we call it tutu, because everything is falling apart. And you cannot put anything out of the world. We came in the bubble. It is here in the bubble. It's how we appease it in the bubble, how we align ourselves in the bubble, how we use that spark that Olodumare has given us that we call Uri, how we align it to the ancestors, our characters, the character of our good ancestors, the ancestors who stay at the feet of Olodumare, how we call them, how we summon them, how we propitiate them, how we live for and through them, and how we raise the prayers by how we live in our communities, not by religion, how we interact with each other in the community to raise the level of consciousness, to raise the level of our mother, the goddess Oshun, the highway from earth to heaven, the consciousness that brings us into alignment. How we do that, and to be able to get a balance so that things keep in a certain way. So that things keep in a certain way. Let us please understand the difference between ancestors and lineage. Let us pray for us all. Let us pray for our community, pray for our country. Because unless one is saved, none is saved. We all are one. It don't matter whether we're Indian, Coolie, nigger, Chinese, whatever we want to call ourselves. If the energy is at the door, is negative for each one. No one is safe. Let us call on our ancestors. Let us pray for our leaders. This is a very auspicious day. Before I close, I just want to, my Otun here and the chief priest of the shrine to say something about ancestors, because you have my
Greetings, everyone. As Ia has said, one of the Gungun that sit outside is from my lineage. She is my ancestor. Through her, the Igungun had to be made, not just to represent her, but to represent ancestors, not only of my lineage, but of the community. So, that story of Oturupo Meji with Oshuni was quite similar to my story. I never make any ancestor. I didn't consider that you would be making a gungun. When I entered the tradition, the Igunguns I saw came from Nigeria. But that is another form of what you will call it, indoctrination, colonization. We have our ancestors here. Our ancestors are us. We are ancestors. They are us. We are them. And the creation of a Gungun masquerade is not exclusive to a particular group of people. Our ancestors guide us so that we fulfill our traditional rights. We in the diaspora, whether we are of the Hindu tradition, whether we are of Orisha tradition, Ifa, whichever, our traditions came with us. There are some things that you do not forget. It's in your bone, it's in your blood, it's in your DNA. And when it is time for it to be represented in a particular way, so it shall be done. So what I would like to emphasize is that we fulfill our traditional rights, that we draw on the courage of our ancestors. In all traditions, I have found one of the greatest laws, the greatest gifts is obedience to divine will. And once you start on the path, our ancestors hold our hands, our ancestors guide our footsteps, we feel them carrying us. We have many challenges as a people that have come through the curse. Ogunda Irosun says the curse is over. It is time for us to learn how it has to be done for us here. They will guide us. We will get, as Chief Barrett said, you get the dreams. And right there in that Christian book in the Bible, they talk about the one with the marvelous coat, the dreamer with the marvelous coat, Joseph. Yes? We have our own traditions, our own ways of communicating. Waking, there's some people who talk about waking dreams. You hear the ancestors, you feel the ancestors. Yes? How do we apply the knowledge and the wisdom of our ancestors? We have serious situations of educating our children, of making sure our mothers know how to raise their children. And that situation with that little baby, 9 months old, is harrowing to think of. How do we appease that situation in that lineage. Because what affects one affects all. Don't think it's just them. It is we. It is us. So we have a lot of work to do and work to do together because our ancestors interact. What is the gentleman's name? Dilraj. I got it right, Ravi? Dilraj. On my way here, it was so poignant, I said I must speak about it. He just saw me, he saw the things in the car, and I told him where I was coming. He said, so I'm glad that the Hindu people and the Orisha people and the Baptist people and all the people coming together, because one thing can't save we, everything has to save we together. So Dilraj, the King of Hearts, he said it very well. We have to come together. We have to weave together like Obatala weaves. And our ancestors come to us through the mother's lineage, through the father's lineage. But the role of the mothers is very important. To make the egungun, the first egungun, Shango used the fabric from the woman to wrap the bones. The role of the mothers have to bring forth the children. And it is in the womb, Obatala shapes the child. The chief of dreams, the man with the white clothes, man being the anthropomorph. You know that word now? The human, making it human. What is divine? The divine energy. So, I will not speak much longer, but I would say thank you for the opportunity that the ancestors of my mother's lineage, Cordelia, Eti, and Gedaron, thank you for the opportunity to create, to be part of the creative process for our ancestors. And if it comes to you, it would be very interesting to see a Hindu egungun. It would be interesting to see how that would manifest. It would be interesting to see how the indigenous peoples' egungun would look. And I dare say that in the creation of egungun in Trinidad, we see it manifest because we have Black Indian masquerade. And we have people here who masquerade the Black Indian. We have different forms represented. So we give thanks, and I pray that our people will look to our ancestral traditions for solutions within our lineage and our community for the things that challenge us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iya Shango Dasawande and Ye Aina Olukayode, very much for that reminder and helping us to understand our ancestors, and also to remind us that it's just not one of us, it's all of us. And that's something that's very pertinent, especially to today's program. So moving along, I will now invite Chief Ogun Rinola to make his presentation, and he will be assisted with a PowerPoint. So I now hand over to Chief.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a pleasure on behalf of the Orisha community, Ifa Orisha community, as we coined it more recently. All right. Thanks to Brother Raviji and the members of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra organization, the hard-working committee, for inviting us here today. This will definitely have to be preceded, I'm telling you, because we did go into time with other activities earlier, and this will have to. So the presentation would be on the screen, and the multiple intelligences, I guess your site would be able to read it, maybe even faster than I would present. Okay, a bit faster than I would present. Now, this presentation was taken under a topic, Progress and Limitations of the Ifa Orisha community in Trinidad and Tobago. And three powerful words we took into consideration was the context in which we should relate to this in present-day time, whatever drawbacks we might have had in the past, and the progress and initiatives that we have used to bring us to where we are, and that we will use to carry us to where we're supposed to be. We, in context, have a tradition that it's in the middle of the ocean, right? It's globally, it's growing fast in the diaspora, but on motherland, suffice to say, it's dying. And to some extent, because of got infiltrations of other cultures in Africa. We have to face it that we have maybe above 40% of Africans that practice Islam, another 40+% that practice Christianity, and a smaller number practice tradition. So we say, Isheshe Ulaubo Kawatu Borisha. It is tradition that we must first pay respect to before we could even pay homage to the Orishas. So I will skim it through in some cases because we have re-emergence, I like to say, of what we used to call Orisha yards coming into shrines, and more recently we call them Ile and Egbe. So we're making strides in our community, given that we've had so many drawbacks over the last centuries for being stifled and stigmatized. We've had a stigma attached to us even by our own people who have been brainwashed into thinking, like my mom used to say, they're more Catholic than the Pope, right? So we have accepted other cultures and we have practiced it even more religiously, I should say, than some of the people who have forced us to accept it through slavery. So the stigma remains with us to a certain extent, and there are still attempts, to separate us by making this big distinction between Baptists, Shango Baptists, Orisha, and Ifa. But we in our community are smart enough to come together and not to allow this division to take place anymore. In the past, we have merged our cultures in African traditions. We have Congo, Igbo, Yoruba, all coming together. And we have the Saraka that is practiced in Grenada and in Trinidad and Tobago to some extent too, to show that we never died and that we will never die. The discrimination that we have experienced, it's rampant. It's rampant. We have Shouter Baptist Prohibition Ordinance in 1917. We had overt offenses under the Summary Offences Act in the past. We have the Drummers Ordinance. We have removal of Orisha icons like elekes and ides, which is things that we put around our arms and put around our wrists and around our necks in schools. So the discrimination doesn't stop within or among religion. It goes into the education system. So society would look at us on Emancipation Day and see a lot of people in Yoruba clothing, in African clothing, and think that as a religion that we are very massive. But we are very few and far between that have the courage to hold on to what our ancestors practiced, pass the baton on to some of us. We went down into the mountains and practiced it there. The drums we turned into steel drums, right? And we have held on to it for dear life, and we're taking it forward ever, backward never. In merging, we join in some of the other religions even in practice. So you find there are some shrines, there's some iles that will start with hymns, and they will start with Hail Mary, and we'll have manifestation will come and say, give me 2 Our Father. You understand? So we have hidden it, right? Syncretizing it with Christianity, but held on to it for their life. But for most part, the larger part of the practice of most of these people are hours of practice of the Orisha drums and chants, way into the wee hours of the morning. So they still pay a bit of respect to where they came from. Like our ancestors told us, don't dam the bridge you cross. So I myself wore sandals, and Jesus Christ was, like, big thing to our Catholic family, right? So our ancestors taught us the Magnificat, the Lord's Prayer. And my uncle would say the Lord's Prayer very loud and pray for me. And I'm sure he lived to 95. And all the Christian prayers that he said it more fervently than some of the people who beat it into him. I'll move on a little faster because I know we're running out of time. But some of the strides that we have taken, notably with our accomplishments, right? We have repealed the Shouta Baptist Prohibition Ordinance. It was repealed through fighting of our ancestors. The removal of the obvious offenses under the Summary Offences Act. This has been done. The Section 60A of the Summary Offences Act allows for drumming and religious activities. And proclamation of the Orisha Marriage Act in 1999 shows that we have made big strides in holding on to what we are. Thank you very much. Other strides that we've made, we've disguised, of course, our tradition, Ishesha, we call it rituals, has shown its presence in traditional carnival masquerades. And here I mentioned a couple of them. We see Dame Lorraine, we see the Midnight Robber, right? We see Pero, some people call it Pero Grenade. All these are African traditional masquerades that we have brought into to our carnival. And, you know, we mentioned Egungun earlier on. When we see us come out, and sometimes we do it in emancipation period, we come out with masquerades. Some people call it masquerade, some people say it's Eku, the dress that will represent our ancestors in Aye, right, which is Earth, Mother Earth. So some strides that we've made, we have been able to bring it into steel bands. We have taken the drums, taken dustbin covers, and brought, we said, the instrument of the last century, the steel drums, which is now a musical orchestra. It's no longer a steel band. Musical orchestra, and we have a national orchestra that would play in national events. And, you know, the banning of the playing of the drums didn't stop us. We went into the mountains, and we played it when we could, right? We had watchmen, watchwomen looking out, and when the police is coming, we would stop. Right? People went into jails, locked up, right, because of drumming and because of the practice of the Ifa Orisha religion. And there are some that mysteriously came out of, we hear the Rada community always talk about it, when they locked up one of his ancestors. Miraculously, she came back out to home. And the policemen were more or less in an apologetic mood when they had to bring her back to her place. So progress that we have made in the more not too distant future, and we continue to make, amid all the negatives, our people have shown unity. We could show some more cohesion and some more harmony, but the goal for faith, culture, spirituality, whatever it might be called, ancestors insisted on it, that you must unite and you must live well with one another. So Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent, and even more recently, Barbados. We've seen more recently where we had an African diaspora conference in Barbados, and we're looking to bring flights straight from Ethiopia to Barbados and into the Caribbean. So the spirit of progress never left us. We continue to fight with all our might. The event speaks to the fact that there are still humans among us, and all is not lost, with collaborations between oppressed to show that the never say die attitude will prevail. This activity in itself shows that people who pay homage to nature, to Olodumare, can unite. We say thanks to Brother Raviji, that the spirit of progress is bringing us together. And if we go way back to 1970, all of us will remember there was a big march from Caroni to Port of Spain, calling for Indians and Africans to unite. So we've seen the fruits of the labors of the 1970s coming into fruition. The spirit of progress is with us, and our development is taking place. We're thinking in terms of opening early childhood schools in our community. We can't boast of having television stations, but we having radio stations now for Ifa Orisha community. There is so many strides that we should be making that other people have made. We can't boast to be as strong as the Hindu community in terms of the respect that you will gain from society, but we are working diligently to ensure that the way we carry ourselves about, that we are respected with the clothes we wear, the way we act, and the way we bring up our children. The spirit of progress is with us. We have organizations being formed. We have around 5 national organizations being formed centered around our shrines and our ilays. And more recently, we had the International Council for Ifa Religion, Trinidad and Tobago chapter being formed in Trinidad and Tobago. We link in with the international body in Nigeria, and we're looking to bring some sort of unity among the various institutions that have been developed in the past. People have never stopped trying to come together. It is difficult when you bring in human beings of so many different traumas that we have gone through. Only recently, somebody was saying to me yesterday, we went to a festival down Tableland. That is time Motherland and Tableland merge. So we had our brother Araba Osho with us, right? And we're saying here that we cannot pretend that what the last 400 years have done to us did not leave us traumatized. We see our young people going astray, and we are beckoning to them in the Ifa Orisha community, come back home. Only yesterday there was an activity for Andre Tanka, and I remember being in England studying, and I had to choreograph a dance and music, and that song came to the forefront. I went away, I leave and I come back home. I come back to stay. I must see my way. Brother Raviji, thanks for the opportunity to be able to present to our gathering here. I had to go through it very quickly because we don't want to be here until 6 o'clock. So thanks to Iya Shangu, Tasa Wande, and Iya Apisi, and Brother Bharat for joining us on the head table here. And I'd like to hand over now to the Mistress of Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing those very important messages, Chief Ogunrinola. And now for the final panel presentation, I hand over to Sri Raviji on behalf of the Hindu community and the Hindu Prachaar Kendra.
Namaskar. Eminence, here at the table, all the eminences, holy ones, elders of Trinidad and Tobago, and those of you who are still with us, thank you very much for your presence. I think today's, first let me express my thanks to the executive for allowing this program. Because without their permission, we are not able to do this, because it does take heart, and it does take larger concerns that that will demand that we go beyond ourselves to take on such a project. Mabrika, Alafia, Namaskar. I just want to hail out my friend Oba Kiteme, my schoolmate. We went to school together and we meet in Orisha places. He's from Laventil and I'm from Caroni. And they used to call me Caroni. When I was going to school in Laventil, they used to call me Caroni. As Isam and Iya Sangomi had announced some time ago the curse is over. So it's time to move on to time to build beyond the curse. Today is Ashwin Mase Sarva Pitri Divase, the last day in the fortnight of the month of Ashwin. And this fortnight is dedicated to ancestors. And today is the last night, the last day. It coincides with a lot of things that is working in my mind when I was thinking about these things, and that is, it coincides with Republic Day. My daughter was singing a song that resonates with that, with our own nation, from a Hindu point of view. It also is in the context of the passing of Her Majesty Elizabeth II. And it brings a lot of things to our minds, and you can see it reflected in the social media. Many people may have hidden their emotions all the years, but it gave the entire world an opportunity to speak about things that we were keeping in our minds. And the remembrances of the scars of colonialism was quite remembered. So a lot was going on about ancestors just in that context within itself, really within the Pitri Paksh time, the ancestors' time. So I think that, well, for years I have been consciously taking myself into spaces beyond the Hindu community. And even when we were now for the first time placing Gita ji and Maya ji at the head of the organization, I took it personally to carry them to the chief and the queen, to Isam, to Ia Rodney, with my sister Entu Springer, and to the Islamic head, and to Pandit Krishna. I thought that was my Guru's instruction to me, that I must fight for my space, for my own dharma. But my responsibility doesn't stay with me. Because of my Sanatana Dharma sanskara, it is my responsibility to see about others and respect others. So I took the children that I prepared for this, who is now head in the organization, to get the blessings of all. And this journey started with Entu Springer some years ago. And I might speak about some little minute things that might demonstrate the kind of things that we have to do because of the kind of things we have to face because of who we are. Actually, as we sit here, hello, brother slave. Hello, sister slave. Hello, pagan. Brother pagan, sister pagan. My hair is raising because how many years, for how long I've been hearing that chanting in my ear and rejection and so many things. And it is most obvious in the parliament. Up to now, I was telling Chief, because I asked him, how must I greet people in their tongue? And he explained to me, Mabrika. And I'll always forget it, and I was telling him I had to every morning get up and say it again and again to get it stuck in my head. But that's the effort we have to take. When we must be on this Vedi, this altar of Trinidad and Tobago, with several kinds of deities. And we are here having something to offer to this nation that is necessary. Because this nation cannot find it possible that every time they sit in parliament and they say they pray, which is a good thing, but only end with amen. And they can't say Ashe, they can't say Mabrika, they can't say Om Shanti. And they consider the parliament as a house of democracy. As far as I understand, any time I listen, for me, it's a house of mockery. And thus it's what all of us, not only of the traditional faiths, but all good Christians and Muslims must also do, because they don't even say salam at the end of the prayer. So is democracy a continuity of colonialism and Christianity, Abrahamic religions? So the head of the country, in the most important exercise over the citizenship, is faulting. And it is not that we haven't spoken about it. I have written so many times about that. As a matter of fact, the first thing they choose to award for the highest is the cross. And we talk about democracy. And our community had to go to a kind of war, an embarrassing thing to happen in a nation with democracy. But these things, we have to step out of our crease to do certain things, you know? So we are joined in that. And we are joined together with one word. We could accept it or we could reject it. I prefer to accept it, and I invite you all to accept it. Because the word itself is not a bad word, because it means those country bookies. And in the origin of times, that's why they call us pagans, because we worship as country bookies. So it's not a bad word, because we are the people of the earth. But we could unite under that word, all of us. That we could unite under that word and stand up for a common range of issues that we have. The Kendra, and I congratulate, it's a lady who's running it, that she has had the courage to admit for such a thing. You know? For years I've been doing this, and people call me PNM Pundit. You know, the PNM government asked me to come to the Balaji house when it was 75th anniversary. I went. That's my responsibility as a Hindu. You call me, you could be who you are, the worst person. My responsibility is to go and join you in prayer. I can't refuse to do that, but I end up with an appellative of PNM Pandit. But that's the risk that we will have to take to move out of our crease, to demonstrate to the other that we are willing. Not only that, as a matter of fact, I want to read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, and I was talking from the point of view that we have a range of capital to offer this country. Listen to this word. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta Shraddhaya tumikshati tasya tasya chalam shraddha tameva viridham amyaham. Whatever form, Bhagavan Krishna says, whatever form that you worship in, anybody worships on, I, Krishna, will strengthen your faith, whatever form, to whoever, whichever form. We are like that, because I have been going to, and that shrine, when I walk inside that shrine, I don't know who gave the instructions, but because they know I'm recognized as a Pandit, the little children come and bow to my feet. No, you have to signal a big round of applause for Isam. you know. Because that is demonstrating a respect for another faith. This is something we can share to Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. This is something that can heal us. You see, we could look for the commonalities, and we have seen today how many things there are common. And it's easy to embrace them, and it's easy to talk about them. But I'll suggest to you that will not necessarily seal the issue for us. We also have to learn to deal with what is not common, with what we don't like in the other. That is what is something. And here we did an example. Chief, as he was beginning, he said, as we do this oblation, we use alcohol. I know when I go to a shrine, as I have been to the shrine for how many years. As a matter of fact, we had called the Orisha people for the river festival every year at Gangadhara, and we had a reception for them there and offered them our respect through a plaque and honored them for the river festival that they were carrying on. Because every year when we have the river festival, it comes at that time. And we used to see it on the newspaper. What is that going on there? We have the same thing. So we call them. Well, that's great. But we have to also see how to manage the differences. That is where the big thing is. Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean is one of the places that have the most differences. All the civilizations have been gathered here. That could not be without a purpose. There is something bigger than us, bigger than colonialism, bigger than the British United Nations, where the sun never set, was working behind that to bring together our one cradle, the peoples of the world, the divinities of the world, the differences of the world, to carry out that an experiment. Be kind to each other. That the human can sit with each other and accept our differences. So, big challenge came to me when we now started to talk about Indian arrival. My sister into Springer, I never knew her, and she never knew me. But my name was now getting around. I had just come to Trinidad. This white sadhu with white clothes and beard and walking around the place in his kapra. And an Indian arrival was starting, so she was in charge of the Heritage Library. She didn't know me. I don't know how she got on to me. They said she wants to come to the library to deliver a lecture. Well, I was glad to go. Show them Creole people in Port of Spain, you know. When I went now, and I tell friends I'm going to this. Oh, Miss Springer? She bad, you know why? She's a black power woman. So I gone in the library. It was in Belmont Library around that time. After the speech and thing, after the speech activity, she always looking after me. And I was well quarreling with, oh yeah, she's keeping it away. I'd making the same fault. The same issues here. So, yeah, and to, at the end, tell an Indian girl who was working in the library, go ask the Pandit if he will eat. I do eat everywhere. My father never eat everywhere. I took a risk that day. I calculated more because everybody telling me she's a real African, a real Afro, and all of that. I say, if that lady is a real African, she's going to understand I'm a real Indian. She will understand as a real Hindu, and she will know what I had to do and what I can't do. So I said yes. All in a split second, that whole Ramayana Katha went through my head. So the girl bring the food for me. Guess what the food is? Dal, bhat, and aloo takari roni. Who cook it and to Springer cook it? Look what that chance, that one chance did, and from since that day, we have been so close. All kind of racial things come. And I can't say that I don't have race in my head. I'll tell you the flat. I can't lie to you. And she can't say she don't have it in her head too because she is talking to me. But the management of it. The management, I learned through her to manage it. She learned from me. And I think there's nobody that I need to speak to. Close as she may be to all of you, but she doesn't speak to anybody in this country as often as she speaks to me. And I to her. The only person I could say who I speak more often to is my baby Gita. But Ento and I always talk about all kind of difficult issues, you know. So I'm saying, I say all this to say there are so many things we can say. Bringing this thing together today is an attempt in that direction to manage the diversity, not to manage it where it's soft. I don't think training with, training to the bone? I don't think we have any bone if we could only manage it where the spaces are soft. We have to come through with training the bone if we have that force, that boast, we like to boast, to come out and treat it the hard nuts. Those things you have to treat. So I think that's the core of what I didn't plan to say, but so many things that have been said, and I didn't want to take extra time. But one thing I wanted to point out, that as many as races and traditions and music and all that we have something really important in this Caribbean space, in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is important for each one of us. Actually, it is like a mirror. We all have our mirrors. And you know what that mirror is? That mirror is called calendar. Hardly anybody knows that Africans have not one, but several calendars. And those calendars order the society. Their dates, their special dates, the deities, everything is placed there. But what we are doing, we are only going and looking at a mirror, which is not our design. So who we seeing? And that is why I want to say one of the difficulties in managing the diversity, it is because we are seeing each other not with our eyes. How could all of us have a set of deities together and still feel that they're doing something wrong? How? But we have been learning to see that if you're doing something, you're doing a worship or something like that, you have to be wrong because I alone right. Because that's the mirror we're looking at. I hope you catch my point. So we have been trained in a kind of a monotheistic way by force. And if we cannot correct that, we cannot correct the gift that we have to give to Trinidad and Tobago. So we are not fighting something for fighting's sake. We are fighting for this Caribbean space. We are fighting for Trinidad and Tobago that we boast of. that we sing about, that we draw art about, but we are doing I'm going to say the word. You're Calypsonians, you know the word. We just said doing So we have to be able to be conscious of the road ahead in this diversity, that we could make our way. And I want to suggest that the calendar is a critical thing that we have to work on. The second thing I think we have to offer, the third thing we have to offer, I think, is the idea of a sacred space. That's something that is part of us. I don't want to work on, that is something we could share to the nation. I feel very bad about something. I didn't ask permission to talk about it, but it's the opportunity I have and I'm exploring. That I remember once when Chief came to the Trinidad, to our mandir, to shape differently, and I apologized on behalf of the Hindus that we had come in this country and we never went properly to the owners of this land and asked permission. Chief, you remember that? Yes. So in that context, something was always in my mind. They are the people, the first citizens, first people. At no time they sold this land. At no time they handed it to anybody. So how cannot they not have a proper protocol space? The chief and the queen. And I think if we don't fight for that, we don't open the door. Jai Sri Ram.
Thank you, Raviji, and thank you to all the members of the panel. You know, the caliber of our gurus and our leaders and our elders here on this panel today was truly remarkable, and the things that they have discussed and talked about is things I think the whole nation should be talking about, but unfortunately our crowd is so small, but we have it on live stream.
Just pardon me, everybody, there's one important thing. I want you to know that the President did make press release to the newspapers. Not one word. Not one word was written about this. Not one word. You know why? Pagans meeting. I don't understand. It could be anything else. It's a pagan meeting. And therefore, I can't understand. My feeling, I'm troubled with my mind. I hardly read the media news because of a lot of things. But I think I'm going to stop reading any newspaper.
Yes, so we can make our own media and our own waves. So we have social media, even though we're not supposed to be on the Facebook and Instagram. It's still good tools for us to talk and have discussions. And I encourage you to use those platforms to any ideas or thoughts that you all had today, because in the interest of time, we're going to skip over the open floor discussion part of the panel. But we welcome you, those who want to speak to us after. We have phone contacts, WhatsApp, our Facebook pages to continue the conversation. And of course, this will not be the end of this. We hope to have more programs like this in the future, maybe even make it an annual thing for Pitri Paksh to honor ancestors together. So we have therefore come to the end of today's, I know, long program. But I think it was very special. We were able to see each other's rituals. We were able to share in each other's cultures and traditions and have some very important discussions as well. So before I close, I just want to give a short vote of thanks, because as we've been saying for today's program, today is actually the final program of 6 events that we have had over the last 2 weeks. So it's been a very busy 2 weeks at the Kendra. So this vote of thanks is just to thank everyone for the entire of the ancestral agenda who have made some contributions to us. Of course, first and foremost, we thank the Pitris, the ancestors of all of our traditions, for making this possible, making this space for us, making this life for us to have, to celebrate. We thank Bhagwan, God, any form of divinity that we recognize. I also want to thank Raviji for creating this project. I mean, he has always been saying over and over again the importance of Pitri Paksh and remembering our ancestors in the Hindu community and now also in all of our traditions. So we thank him for creating this opportunity for us, as well as to Geeta Vahiniji, the president, for allowing and guiding us in these programs. And she's also one of the organizers as well of these events. So we thank her. Throughout these 6 events, we have recognized certain Jahajis or Pitris or ancestors or people who have contributed to the building of the community and of the Kendra. So their families have donated to us through many different ways for this project to happen. So we thank the families of Sri Udit Singh, Sri Rashid Mohammed, Kumari Saloni Raval, Pandit Karu Oja Maharaj, and Doon Pandit for their contributions. We thank the members of the First Peoples Traditions for joining us today, the members of all of the shrines of the Orisha, the Ifa Orisha traditions, for coming together today for this wonderful event. We thank Krishna Ram Singh Ji, for all of his work that he continues to do tirelessly every day in and around the mandir, the upkeep, and as well as musical accompaniment. We thank our tech and sound team, Ish Ji, Vasel Ji, Uncle Shami, and anyone else who has assisted, to the people who have been preparing food for all of the events, Annette Ji, the Ram Singh family, Asha Ji. We also thank the Kendra executive, Rajan Bhagwat Ji, Naila Maraj Ji, Nandai Joseph Ji, and others who have come together to help in all of the preparations, and also to the Yuva Vahini, which is the youth chapter of the Hindu Prachaar Kendra, Bhavani, Chaya, Sandhya, Sonja, Vasal, Ish, Devanand, Vandana, all of those who have come together every day to work and set up and make sure everything is running well. Lakpa Ji as well for assisting. We thank all of these people and anyone that I may have missed. Thank you for making these 6 events a success, and especially thank you to all of you present here today for coming out and showing your support of the traditions of our ancestors and everything. We also, I remind you that before we leave, we have to greet the ancestors in the Orisha, the first tent. So as soon as I close off here, I will invite you all to go outside before we officially end. And I invite Raviji to make a closing statement, and then we will do the closing prayer.
So I state everything close. Vishalaji is the chairman of the Ancestral Agenda. I would like you to give her a big round of applause. Thank you.
I thought there was more. Okay, so officially we bring the Ancestral Agenda 2022 to an end. I just invite everyone to assume a prayerful position as we close it off with a mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Jahaji Pitri ki, Sarva Pitri ki, Trinidad and Tobago Desh ki, Sanatan Dharma ki, Jai Shri Ram. So I invite the members of our panel to come off stage. And I thank you all again. Please Before anything else, go to